Welcome back, and I'm Jeff Byers, and I'm going to take you through how to add a texture map, a base texture map to your UVs. This follows a previous tutorial that I created unwrapping your UVs, so this will be the next step. You can either take these and export these out like we did before by clicking on the snapshot and telling it where to go and the resolution you want to have the UV map. I usually go 4096 by 4096, and make sure you manage your files to where your files are. So the next thing we're going to do is we're going to save this out. So we're going to prep the model to save out, export it out so we can get it into a program like Substance Painter. Now Substance Painter can be found on Algorithmic. So just type in Algorithmics or Substance Painter, you'll be able to find it, and you should be able to download the software for free as a student. So anyway, get that installed and you'll be able to follow along. Okay, I'm going to close that. Select the object that has the UV map. The object has to have a UV map for Substance Painter to understand it. So let's go in here to Export Selection. So File, Export Selection. Go into the option box, and we want to save this out as an OBJ. So if you don't see OBJ, you'll have to go into the Plugin Manager, which is under Windows, Preferences, Plugin Manager, and then you'll find out and just make sure that's loaded. Click on OBJ Export. Everything's good. You don't have to really do anything. Just click on Export Selection. And then you want to make sure you are saving it to the right folder. Okay? If you set your folder, you should be saving it to the right one. So anyway, I'm going to go ahead and call this Tabletop and Export. Alright, so we know what it is. So Tabletop Export, and let's capitalize that. There we go. And Export Selection. Okay, so the next thing we're going to do is we are going to bring in Substance Painter. Okay. So I will want to open up the object in here. So we're going to go to File and New. So File New, and then we're going to go in here, and so you can see that the template we're using is PBR, okay, Metallic Roughness Algorithmic. Okay. So Mesh we're going to select. So next to that, click on Select. Alright, and then we're going to find our mesh, wherever that may be. Okay, projects and source images, or excuse me, we're in the scenes folder. There we go. And there we are. So click on that, open that up. Depending on what kind of a video card you have, DirectX or OpenGL, both will work depending on if your card supports it. So make sure you pick the one you want. If you have an NVIDIA card, it usually supports both of these, so it doesn't matter. I prefer to do DirectX. I've not had any problems with that. So I'm going to go in here to change this document resolution to 4096, and that we don't have to mess with that later. And then, do we need to import normal maps or baked maps for all materials? I don't have any of that baked or normal maps, so I'm going to just click on OK. And here is our table. Now what I'm doing is I'm holding down the Alt and the left mouse button, which is nice because it's the same exact buttons that Maya has. So you'll feel right at home at moving around. So I'm going to get in here, just get a little closer like that. Alright, so there's a lot of stuff in here. I'm not going to go through every single thing you can do or even paint on it. There are lots of tutorials. My class isn't really based on having you learn Substance Painter, although we're going to get into it a little bit later, more in depth. But right now, we just want to put a base texture on this. Now, I have a lot of textures in here. Things that I subscribe to Substance Source, so I get a lot of stuff, and it's really important that you understand that I've had to pay to get these, and I've taken a lot of time to upload and download all this stuff. So I have a lot of things, stuff that you probably don't have. But what I did do was share some what are called sbsar, and I'm going to show you how to load those up. Those are basically, I shared those with you in the assignment, and I'll show you where they're at. So I'm going to show you how to load those up. So under shelf, okay, we're going to go in here. If you click on materials, you can see materials. So I'm going to go under shelf, click on this guy right here. Okay, that's basically meaning I'm going to import, and it says add resources. We're going to add resources. So I'm going to go to my desktop. I have it there. Let's look in here. Substance painter wood. So that's what you're going to be looking at. Substance painter wood. Okay. So double click on that, and you can see that we have I've given you quite a few here. Okay. Now you're not going to be able to open these guys. Anything with kind of a green flag with an S in front of it, that's going to be read just fine. You're going to be able to read that. So you have a lot. I think I've given you over 25. So if you can't find something in here, I don't know where you're going to find it. But anyway, this will help you with getting your base textures done, and then we can go from there. So right now we've got, I don't have any idea what these look like. They don't have any previews or anything. So I think I'm going to look at something like American chestnut. Why not? So we'll look at that. Wood American chestnut, just click on that. Let's just do one at a time and see how we can get it to look, and we can load more later. I'm not going to load the whole thing. In fact, I'd prefer you didn't do that. Just kind of play with one or two, and then you can load the rest of them. So anyway, so I'm going to go open. Okay. Now, it says it found it, so you're good there, and it is an sbsar. So that's the format. Okay. So it's undefined. So we want to select it as a base material. Okay, there we go. So once you do that, we need to tell it where to go. So import your resources to, we want to go to shelf, shelf. There we go, shelf, shelf. Now if you don't see that, you're going to have to pick whatever it wants you to pick. So I have a choice of shelf, shelf, or project. I'm just going to do shelf. I want it on the shelf, and I want to keep it on there. So I'm going to go ahead and click on import. All right. So there it is. There's the American wood, okay, which is kind of cool. All right. So it highlights, and if you mouse over it, you can see kind of a little icon there. And so what I'm going to do now is I'm going to go ahead and place it in my texture. Okay, texture set list. It's actually there's my layers. I'm going to open up my layers. So there's my layers, and so I want to place it on there. So I'm going to go ahead and middle mouse button drag it onto that layer. Okay. Again, I'm going to middle mouse button drag it onto my layer, and you can see that it put that wood on top. And you can see why it's really important the direction of your wood is correct. Okay. All right. So there's my base. Cool. All right. Now, I gave you 25 different choices, so you can, if you don't like this, you can find something else. Okay? But anyway, so this is the idea. Okay, so what we're going to do now is we're going to find out how we can change this. Okay? So I'm going to move the properties fill in here, move it up. You can see we've got the properties. Okay? And basically opens both of those up. There we go. So we got the fill. So we've got scale, and this is really important. So I think the scale is way too high because our table's big. If we wanted to look like a small toy, a small piece of wood, we would do that. But we have to kind of be careful not to go too small, then it's going to look gigantuan. So you're going to have to just kind of guesstimate what the best, the size and scale of the object. Maybe find a, maybe this is close to a 4x8 sheet of plywood. So maybe find out what a 4x8 sheet of plywood and how the wood grain looks before you make any decisions on scale. And I think that looks pretty good for the size of the table. That's what I think. I mean, Might be just a little bit big. So anyway, so that's the idea. So we'll bring that down. And you can also type in the numbers here. So if I type in 2, oops. There we go. So let's go with that. Alright, then you have rotational values. So if you got it the wrong way, which we don't, we have it the right way. So that looks good. But you can change those. You can offset it if you want to. Move it around. If you don't like that knot right there, you can move it around so you don't see it. And some other offset stuff, you know, you can do it this way too as well. So you guys can play around and get that if you want to. If you don't like that knot at all, which I really don't, it looks kind of bizarre. Alright, so I'm going to kind of go to the top view, kind of look at it from the top view, see how it looks. Yeah, I'm okay with that. Alright, the only thing I don't like is the color of the wood. It's not very, I don't know, it's kind of more like pine. So in here you can go and click on the color and pick the color that you would like. So I can go with a darker wood, okay, to make it a little more classy. Okay, cool. Even go really dark into the dark areas. And then we've got some other things you can play with. Now again, I've never played with this, so I'm just learning just like you would. I've not played with this material, so I have no idea what I'm getting myself into. So we've got like matte varnish roughness intensity, wood roughness, and you guys can kind of play with that a little bit and get, you know, see what it does. But for the length of this video, which is getting kind of long now, I'm going to have to move on. So you can just kind of play with that stuff. Mess around until you like what you see. Okay, so with that done, I think I'm good to go. Let me bring that down a little bit so we can look at this, see if there's anything in here. Pretty basic. So there's my piece of wood. Okay, if you like what you see, then you are ready to rock and roll. So now we can go into file. Now, what if I want to keep this as a smart material? Okay, now smart material is something you can reuse all the time. Now this one here, notice that it has not changed. It's non-destructive, meaning that once I save this out and I close down Painter, if I bring it back up again, I have to go through all of this again to get this material. But what if I want to keep what I have? So you can do that by clicking on a folder, or excuse me, yes, a folder, and rename that folder. So we can drag and drop that in there, and we're going to rename this whatever, dark wood. Okay. Here we go, dark wood. And I can drag and drop that. I think I can move that into that. There we go. Okay, and I can right click over this, and it should allow me to save it as a smart material. So I'm going to create smart material out of this dark wood. Okay, and there it is. So it put it in smart materials dark wood. So you can see that. There you go. So now we got to export this guy. So I'm going to go to File, Export Textures, PBR Metal Rough, Dilation Infinite. I'm going to go No Padding Pass Through, and 4096, 8 bits PNG configuration. We're going to move down to PBR Metal Rough. This will select and give us roughness, metal, normal, height, and emissive. We won't use emissive. We won't use height. We'll use normal, metallic, roughness, and base color. Sometimes the roughness looks good, and sometimes the metallic is off. So if we have, sometimes I use it, sometimes I don't. But right now we'll just play around with it and see what happens. So export. And we should be good. Where are you gonna put it? Well, I want to put it somewhere I can find it. So I'm gonna put it back in the Maya project folder. So under source images. So we're gonna put it in there. Select the folder. So now you can see where it's going to go. Again, you can select it here, and then click on export.